Hello? Hello? Okay, I think we're going. We're good to go. Guys, my name is Brandon Burbank. It's such an honor to be here to talk with you guys about an important subject for me and I think for all of us in this world today, mental health. With that being said, I'm going to go into more depth about my story and what I've been able to overcome and accomplish while going through certain challenges with my own mental health. My goal is that you will be able to be inspired or motivated to help yourself out or to help another person out who's going through mental health challenges and trying to learn how to find their own way in their own lifestyle journey. So with that being said, the 5 components that I'm going to cover for today's speech include hospitalizations, halfway house, mental health treatment programs, homelessness and homelessness recovery, and number 5, return to work phase and what that looks like for me as well as for other people in their own lifestyle. But before I go into any depth into those components, I wanted to give you a little bit more in depth around my upbringing so that you can understand more where I've come from and where I'm actually at now, despite the challenges of my own mental health challenges, as well as just going through the life circumstances in my own life. So my upbringing, I grew up in Whatcom County, which is near Bellingham, Washington, that general area, and here in Washington State. And I was a successful teen kid as a kid, just working through these challenges and being successful with school and sports. I graduated with a 3.5 GPA, and I did a lot of hard work in my own studies and while I was in high school, and I did Running Start and things like that really showed a lot of progress and momentum. However, I went on a study abroad trip to Barcelona, Spain. This was in 2015, and returning home from studying abroad, I experienced reverse culture shock. And then with more of that in mind as well, I also went through these challenges with going through a lot of learning how to work through my challenges in my own way. And so I went through, returning home from studying abroad, I went into a deep depression and anxiety, and I had a lot of challenges that I was going through alone. And I wasn't asking people for help. I wasn't working through the challenges of what I needed to work on. And as a result, I went through these challenges alone. And so then afterwards, I was in 2016 in the springtime, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So this was kind of a huge hit for me because I was like going through these challenges alone and asking myself, I was in a state of denial, to be honest with you. But I was just a young 19-year-old kid who, with this diagnosis of bipolar disorder, I don't know how to work through my challenges when I go through these challenges. So I had to learn how to accept radical acceptance of my diagnosis, but while also being able to work through my challenges and asking myself, how can I be better? How can I work through these challenges and become the best version of myself and be successful and be the person that I want to become in my own life? So I'm going to transition to the hospitalizations now to give you more feedback on what that's looked like for me. I've been through probably 3 or 4 different major hospitalizations in my recovery, which was it's been really a hard situation because nobody wants to be in the hospital, but when you're going through the challenges and you're working through the challenges and trying to work on your changes and asking yourself, how can you get through this and become sustainable, it's a hard question to ask yourself. So as a result, the first hospitalization was pretty significant because that's when they gave me the diagnosis. But then the other hospitalizations that I've experienced by myself, it was hard because I had no family support. And at times I was in denial of my diagnosis. And so because of that, it really caused a lot of friction and a lot of pain and a lot of uncertainties that I was having to work through these challenges alone. Although I had some family support and wanting to see me succeed, it was still hard because I wanted to be so much better in a certain way, but it's like I couldn't get through that. I had to ask myself, okay, well, if I'm not getting better now, how am I gonna do it? So as a result, I had to start asking myself the hard questions about my life and about my journey. Are you gonna take yourself seriously? Are you gonna take your condition seriously? These types of questions that help me test myself and to say that I could get better, to say that change is possible, that transformation can be achieved, and that my recovery can be successful. I started to actually believe in that, and as a result, through a long amount of time period, I wrote a book called Come Back to Success, Relentless Commitment for a Better Tomorrow, that helped me really share my story so vulnerably to a hurting audience, and that audience is the mental health community. Here's a statistic out there for you. According to NAMI, 1 in 5 adult Americans is living with a mental illness, and that's not even including the statistic with the children population as well. And so there's so many different people who, actually I think the number is around close to 50 million adult Americans who are living with a mental illness. If you can think of it from that standpoint, what I'm trying to do is to support them and give them hope, give them transformation so that they can believe in themselves, that change is possible. By all means, just keep trying. And so for me, what my story has been looking like is I've been trying to just get any opportunity that I can have to make a difference, to share my story towards other people and towards the mental health community is really what it all boils down to. And so I've been on this career path since 2021. I started speaking professionally in Long Beach, California when I was living there at the time, and going through different pain points and trying to give more than what I was expecting in return. That's what, if you want to be successful in this field as a speaker or just as somebody who's an advocate, you have to be willing to give more than you're actually receiving. And so for me, I've drove here from Bellingham, Washington, just excited as heck to be here with you guys, to share with you guys the positive transformation of my own life and how the change, and to see that change can be possible in other people's lives as well, who are going through mental illness challenges, or who might feel alone, who might be afraid that they're not going to be able to be anything. Because transformation, and I keep saying that, but that change, and if you really put in the effort in yourself, change is possible. So back to the hospitalizations aspect. The hospitalizations, I mean, I'm going to give you one thing right now. It's a very helpful place for a lot of people, and it's helped a lot of people, including myself. And there was times when I needed it, but then there was also times when, in my life story, when I didn't need to go to the hospital, and I actually had no choice but to go to the hospital. One specific example that I'm going to bring up to you: I was returning from living in Southern California, Long Beach area, and I was homeless at the time. And because of this situation, I either had one choice I was in an inpatient, voluntary-based situation, but they were recommending that I go to the hospital, the ER department, and so, or the psych ward, excuse me. And so because of that, I had a choice to make. Am I going to try and go to the psych ward, or am I going to continue being homeless? And as a result, I've never been homeless except for during that time period in my life. It was hard to make. It was a hard decision to make, but I made it by myself, and I went to the psych ward and had to go through another cycle of recovery once again. So we'll be talking about that soon, though. The hospitalizations in itself, everybody has their own struggle while they're there. Everybody's working on their own situation, their own recovery. What does that look like? Having people come to support them. It's a very tight-knit situation, and so because of that, it definitely is important to think about recovery while you're doing that. And so for me, here's one of my mantras that I was telling myself while I was in the hospital during this time period. I said, winners never quit and quitters never win. So because of that viewpoint, I instilled that in my mind to say, winners never quit and quitters never win. And so while I was in the hospital, while I was being homeless at the time and trying to figure out what my next step was, what my next move was, I was consistently telling myself, don't give up. God has a plan for you. You're on the right path for yourself, and even though it's hard to, kind of feel like other people are going through it. I guarantee you right now, I believed in myself, and I told myself that other people they might not be going through the same exact situation that I'm going through, but other people have gone through similar situations. And because of that, it gives me a lot more hope to say that change is possible, and that anybody who's going through a mental health crisis can come out better in some way, shape, or form. So back with the hospitalizations is an important part of our communities, and I'm not saying that I don't give you guys more of a viewpoint. It's just what's worked for me. At times, I work effectively when I'm not in a hospital situation, but there's been times in my life journey when I've had no choice, but I had to go to this hospitalization because that's just how life turned out. And so as a result, that's just my viewpoint on that. So now let's transition to the halfway house. So this was in 2017. I was a youngster, just a 21-year-old kid at the time, and I was discharged from a hospital, and then a couple of days later I was put into this thing called a halfway house. And in this halfway house, it was hard to work through these challenges because, essentially I was there by myself, and the situation was this. You had a bunch of other people there that were living there as well. You get 3 meals a day, and it's a room and board situation, which is great, but the problem is that most of these people that I was living with were severely mentally ill. So I went from a transition phase of living at home with my parents and then being in the hospitalization process to then living in a halfway house where I felt like I couldn't communicate with other people because they were so far gone in their own journey. And so that's kind of where I'm sharing this viewpoint with you to say that the halfway house was a hard and testing and trial and tribulation situation for me, but I got through it because of the fact that I believed in myself. And another thing that really came to mind with the halfway house, what it looked like for helping me, was music. Music really helped me gain more momentum to if I couldn't communicate with other people while I was at the halfway house, I was able to listen to music and be in spirit with something else that was just like the melody and the lyrics as well, just was what helped me get through time in the halfway house. So time in the halfway house was very difficult and traumatizing as well for me, but the fact that I got through it, it was nothing short of a miracle. It's a testimony that change is possible and that you are worth more than what you can imagine. So, and then after that, I went to a place called the Mental Health Treatment Program in Atlanta, Georgia. It's called Skyline Trail, and it's a mental health treatment program that helps other people who are working on their recovery with mental illness and mental health challenges. So with me, my diagnosis was bipolar disorder. I was able to work through these challenges and asking myself, how does success look for me in the long term? And here's the other funny thing about being there. While I was at the Skyline Trail, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, the mental health treatment program, while I was there, I would find myself being very in denial still. Like, so I was 21 years old at the time, and I was still in a state of denial. And so that's why it probably didn't take me until 22 or 23 years of age before I started to realize that there's something missing here. I have to be able to be recognizing of my condition, bipolar disorder, so that way I can be able to be at a better state of mind. And so the problem with, even though I was in a state of denial while being at Skyline Trail in Atlanta, I found myself being able to be making community with other people who are working through their challenges as well at the same time in their own way, and believing in themselves, and just creating a lot of cool opportunities to socialize and interact with other people who have a diagnosis as well. And so that's the funny thing, the amazing thing about what I learned by being at Skyline Trail is that hope is possible. If you believe in yourself and if you have a strong network of support, that change can be possible. You can create change in your own way, but you have to be the first person to be in your own skin to say that that change is possible. And so that's kind of where it all boils down for me, is like although I wasn't fond of being at Skyline Trail. I wanted to go home and return to going to school. That wasn't the situation that occurred. What happened more from the reality was I was there and I had to make the best out of the situation. And that's kind of what it all boils down to in life as well. Is like when you go through a hard recovery and you're trying to work on your transformation process, but it's not coming right away, that's where patience comes into play. How do you stay patient and staying firm and grounded in your own skin to say that you can change, to say that change is possible, to say that you can create the version of yourself that you're looking for in time and with the right supportive people? Because here's the thing, folks. If you are ambitious, if you want to see changes made in your life or another friend's life, you have to be the one that's going to step up and stand up for yourself and say to yourself, yes, I'm accepting of what's required of me to get from point A to point B in order to get there, but what happens is I have to put in the work. I have to put in the efforts to make the changes. So that's the mental health treatment program and the halfway house, and how they interconnected with each other was because it was just such a close time period in my life when it was very hard, but it was also very transformative as well, because I started to learn more about mental health I started to realize during this time period that maybe there is something that I can offer. Let me ask you a question right now. What is something that you can offer to other people right now? What is that one thing that you've been thinking about every single day in your life that you feel is your calling? That's the type of mentality that I wanted to introduce to you right now, because that's what's helped me get through my challenges and finding more ways to be my innovative self, but also to be a free spirit that actually makes a tangible difference and a tangible impact in other lives. Okay, so we've covered hospitalizations, halfway house, mental health treatment program. Now let's go to the homelessness and homelessness recovery. All right, so when I returned home from living in Southern California for over 2 years in time period, and prior to that, I was living in Seattle, Washington at the time. As a result, I returned home, home is Bellingham for me. I returned to Bellingham in like October of 2022, and I had to work on, so this was about 2 years ago roughly, and I had to learn how to ask myself, what am I going to do I was just going through a lot of different phases in my life when I had no job situation lined up, I had no housing situation lined up, and because of those two things that were involved with my life, I was resorted to being homeless and living in hotel rooms and living like off of food from the Lighthouse Mission Ministries in Bellingham. And so part of that has been that's been a huge, a significant part of my life story, because being homeless sucks. I mean, nobody wants to be homeless, but the hard part about it is that many people do experience homelessness every single day because they become acclimated to it. I work at an organization called Walk-In Clubhouse, where we serve other people who are homeless as well and who are working through their challenges and asking themselves, how can I get out of my homelessness situation? But here's the thing, it kind of boils down to the other things that I've been saying earlier about patience and execution. Those are key components for change to be made. Patience and execution, and actually believing in yourself and making a difference and making a change, and asking yourself, how do I work through these challenges, and what does that look like for me versus for other people? Making that comparison standpoint. So when I was homeless, I was essentially trying to figure out where my next meal was going, where my next place to live was going to be, and a part of that was also because I was in a state of denial with mental health stuff like that, also related to like medication and stuff like that. It was a very difficult time period in my life where I found myself trying to figure things out as I went, but the hard part was that I was just spinning my wheels, so to speak, because I went from a dramatic transition from being being not homeless in Long Beach to then being homeless in Bellingham, and asking myself, what does change look like? And so that's kind of where the hospitalization came, came during this time period, similar time period. And so what I was trying to say is that the change that happened in my life it happened for a reason. So with hospitalization, though, it essentially to give you more of a perspective to think about. I went from being homeless to then being hospitalized, and then after I was hospitalized, I was living in a place called the Sun House Community Services Organization. It's a non-for-profit organization, and that totally fueled my success to work on my recovery and telling myself that failure is not an option, that quitting is not an option, that transformation is possible, that I can achieve what I'm trying to achieve in my life. And because of that, it really made a huge impact in my own journey. And so I was living there, it was a place to live and a place to have food as well, and also just working on other aspects of my journey. I started to speak again professionally, and I probably spoke to maybe 3 people at a couple of different engagements that I created, but that makes all the difference, and it makes it possible to believe in yourself and to say that change is possible and that transformation can be made. So with that in mind, the homelessness recovery situation was very, very helpful for me, because I was able to see that I was able to believe in myself and saying that don't give up. Don't give up on yourself and don't give up on your dreams, because what you have to offer is gold. And what the things that you can say, the things that you can do are different than other people's. So don't disqualify yourself and say that you can't do something when maybe it hasn't even been done before. So that's kind of the viewpoint that I'm thinking about when I think about my homelessness recovery. During that time period, I was also working on, I was also working with, I lost my train of thought, but just with the homelessness situation, there was a lot of other opportunities that I took advantage of those opportunities, such as getting a part-time job, such as joining a small group for socializing that was faith-based, and working on my recovery by being stable and getting a good night's sleep and staying healthy by running, another great way to help me, and I encourage a lot of you to do some running as well for yourself, because how therapeutic running can be for me, and it might be the same for you as well on your journey. So that's the recovery process of what it looked like, because from being homelessness to then being hospitalized to then being in the recovery from homelessness, I was able to start getting more momentum, and I was able to start changing my mindset, because I've been through so much already. It was phenomenal to see the changes of what I've been able to overcome while still going through these challenges alone. So that's the homelessness and homelessness recovery. We're going to cover step 5, return to work phase, and what that looks like. So there's been many times in my own recovery where I've actually gone through these challenges by myself and had to work through these changes and ask myself, what does failure look like and what does success look like to me? And asking myself, do you want to keep going or do you want to quit? And so there's been many times when I was living in various places such as Seattle, Long Beach, California. I've always been very invested in being a successful speaker. I'm very passionate about what I speak upon, and I want to make a difference to the lives of many other people, but I recognize that patience is a huge requirement for what I'm trying to build. Patience is important for what I'm trying to create. And so because of that, I've had to say to myself, pause and recognize that patience is a huge important aspect for what you want to create in your life. To be honest with you, there's been many times when I've gone through hospitalizations and then returned to work. A couple of examples are returning to work at Fred Meyer and how helpful that was for me in my journey when I returned home from being at the mental health treatment program. I was living in Bellingham at the time, and I returned to working at a Fred Meyer as a bagger clerk in Bellingham. And what that did for me is it gave me purpose. And although I was still struggling with my mental health challenges, challenges and working through these changes, I was still able to ask myself, how do you want to grow? Do you still want to keep going? Yes. And I said yes to myself, because that's what matters. It counts about keep trying until eventually until you're actually cruise coasting and making your dreams come true. And then the other pretty significant part of my career path has been, I've been a part of the Whatcom Clubhouse mental health organization since about a year ago. I joined the board, and then I became an employee at the Clubhouse. To give you a little bit more information about the Clubhouse, it's a day treatment program that helps people who have a mental illness and who are working actively on their recovery and working to make changes in their life. And so I've become a part of this organization as a generalist, where I work there part-time to making a difference in the lives of other people and being a supportive person to talk with people and to have conversations about mental health and to just be there and to support other people. And that's kind of what has been a huge help for me to give me a sense of purpose while I'm simultaneously trying to grow my speaking business and making a difference in the lives of the mental health community here in America. So as a result, let's see here. I wanted to, if you could get into small groups, there's a quick question that I wanted to ask you about, and that is this. What could you say or do to help somebody who's in their return to work phase? What is one thing or you could say or do to help someone in their return to work phase? We'll give you like 2 minutes for this, and then people can answer.
Especially working,
we're answering in the questions in the groups. We're answering a question for what is one thing you could say or do to help somebody in their return to work phase? In their return to work phase.
I'm changing things over, plus analyzing the past things, and I feel like I'm in a good spot. I choose to go where I'm going into it. It satisfies needs. I'm taking my time to go appropriately. And it resonates with me. Therefore, I have better success with it. I want to. I recognize I'm in a position where I'm not trying to raise kids. And I'm starting from zip again.
Okay.
I mean, I'm starting that from nobody's. I've got a lot of health and I have physical limitations, but I feel like I've chosen that is intuitive to me.
Okay.
Speaks to me.
Yeah.
My heart. It also is also something I can realistically prepare for. I can realistically get into it, and it will meet my needs financially. So I don't feel like I'm going. It's like a bad day till the next day.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I'm in a good spot. So
That's
I
good.
may not be a good person for that question.
That's okay.
You know, 'cause I'm not younger, I'm not, trying to raise kids, I'm not.
Yeah.
I wish that, I'll tell you what though, I wish I'd known about this something ago, and I wish that I had been kind of present more and believe in myself, because I would have gone.
All right, we're going to go around in groups. To one person can share their answers. One person can share their answers in the group by raise of hand. Anybody want to share their answers? Yes, in the back.
Sure. A big one for us was, a big key was consistency. So, for example, just letting someone know that during their return to work phase, that's a big change. And so just letting them know that continuously, like consistently, hey, I'm here for you as an extra year. Because you don't know the remainder of their story, and you could be the first year that has ever been lent to them. And that's going to make all the difference. You don't know. So, you might as well turn on the empathy button and keep pressing play. So
Awesome.
Consistency and presence.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to share? Yes.
Well, our group said, first of all, employment is about choice. So if somebody says they want to work, you don't want to downplay it or discourage them or and say maybe when they're recovering for a period of time, you want to engage them, meet them where they're at, individual choice of what kind of job they want, ask different follow-up questions to, because
Yes, yes.
because their mouth might not be necessarily what their big story was.
Great.
And a lot of people aren't working directly with people like in an employment capacity. So somebody says they want to work, you do that warm handoff or that hot handoff.
Yes, in the back.
It's been close to, or maybe 20 years ago, but someone once said in this workshop, if you make looking for a job your full-time job, you'll find one. It's that whole, I went and applied and nobody will hire me, and then you stop.
Yeah, keep trying, keep trying. I like that. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, in a nutshell, guys, my story is I'm trying to help other people and to make a difference in the lives of other people who have a mental illness. I might not be the perfect speaker, but the fact is, my hope is that I've articulated myself well enough today to help give you guys more of a components that have helped me in my own recovery, because I believe in myself and I want to make a difference. And I know that when I do speak, I can make a difference. And sometimes it's just a matter of continuing to work at it, and eventually you'll start to reach your goals and objectives. And so my hope today is that this speech has been helpful for you and to give you clarity. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask everybody to give me a survey real quick. There's a survey on the screen. I'm going to put it up right now. And if you are interested in hiring me to speak or anything of that nature, please let me know and get in touch with me. And I would love to have a further discussion with you. So thank you. And we'll wrap it up shortly after the QR code is up. Thank you.
So sorry. Certainly you said, and I might just have legend everything. I might even haven't got my CPC yet.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of looking, and this is like I said, a second phase of life for me. So after.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of the work on my own before I kind of felt like it's like a good place.
Yeah.
To make these choices. I'm also looking at wanting to work at, and I don't know if you're from Seattle or.
I'm not, and I'm from Bellingham.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with Harborview?
Yeah. I'm not, I mean, I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's, well, the PATS field, which is the behavioral health arm of Harborview. I was thinking that's where I do a lot of things, and I was thinking, as far as like information, kind of gathering up for people over there too that couldn't attend and things like that, and looking into that. Like I didn't know if I'm sure you travel.
Thank you.
I'm sure you travel, for speaking engagements. So there's various groups of folks that doing various levels of recovery and things like that, and also maybe getting in touch with the employment support group there, that maybe you could come and do a talk. I'm so sorry that I missed your speech. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What, can you do like a quick?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
And I will take your information.
If you want to just raise your hand once you're done, that would be great, and then we can finish up.
So I'm not on.
Oh, okay.
But I'm with NAMI South King County, and you called me like over a year ago, and you were looking for places to speak.
Yeah.
I started sending you links to come and speak at different places.
I think I remember you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good to see you.
Say hi in person.
Thank you.
You bet.
Let me know if there's other opportunities. Did you fill out the Talkada?
Yeah, I'm good.
Please do.
You bet.
Thank you.
That's cool. I was like, oh, I gotta go in there and say hi to you.
Yes. All right. right, so in wrapping up of this speech today, I just want to say thank you everybody who is attending this engagement, and I hope that this has been helpful for you to give you more of a lens about somebody who's actually had a success story with bipolar disorder and how change is possible. Momentum can be built, and you can overcome your obstacles, and hopefully that this has helped you to inspire yourself or inspire another loved one who you might know who's going through mental health challenges right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can also do Q&A now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Yes.
You talked a lot about being alone or feeling alone.
Yeah.
Can I ask where your family was during?
Yeah, I would say just the fact that I lived in Long Beach, California for over 2 years independently, to then being back in Bellingham in a different environment with different people, and my relationships with my family members were strained. It made it difficult to have to live life and without having support from family. And so luckily things have changed, but that was a huge pivotal time in my life that was really hard to adjust. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, I appreciate all your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you.